welcome to Weekend Project. I'm Laura Lynn of the Mom and Pop Quilt Shop, and we're very happy to see you here today. Now, this project has been brought about from a few questions that we've had from our every other week project going on since the beginning of the year, which is Get to Know My Neighborhood, which I'm just doing a heat and bond applique down on some squares of fabric, things that represent my neighborhood. So I had a couple questions. If I wanted, they were asking, if they wanted to stitch this down, what stitches would they use? Well, I can give you the top three that I know of and use regularly is a blanket stitch, a zigzag stitch, and a satin stitch. So here's an example right now so you can see it before we even start. Here's an example of a blanket stitch, which means it is straight on the outside and then pops into the fabric to stabilize it as it's going. Now I just did little egg shapes for these just to show you it's easy enough to do with the curves, but we are going to do hearts because hearts have curves and straight points, straight parts and points. So I think that's going to help cover all the things that we kind of need to be able to get ourselves around an applique. So here's right here, that is the blanket stitch, okay? And then right here is the zigzag stitch. Now I have heat and bonded these these fabrics here right onto my fabric and stitched around. But I can suggest if you're going to do a satin stitch and lots of satin stitching on a certain project, then I would stabilize the bottom of the fabric as well with a medium lightweight, somewhere in between of a stabilizer, because as it's stitching back and forth, as you will see on this one here, hold on right there, it's a lot. It's a lot of thread and it's a lot of fabric movements. And because this part right here, I'm stitching mostly on the eggy shaped part right here, you can see I'm just coming right to the edge of the corner or the edge of the fabric. So I'm really just stitching where it's been stabilized already. So, but if I happen to be wanting to go stitch right in the center, half on and half off the project, you would really want some stabilizing fabric underneath of that for sure, because it's just going to pull those fabrics in and you're just going to end up with something just the fabric's going to be all wrinkled around your applique. Okay, so now that we know the three basic ones, I will let you know on a little secret. If you don't have a zigzag foot or you only have straight stitch on your machine, you can still do an applique. It's just a straight stitch applique, and I've done this on this little anchor here, and I've just gone straight around. I've used a lovely purple variegated thread here from Hemingworth. And then you could use that, or you can use just a color that matches your project, or using some lovely variegated colors, I think really sets off a project. So I've used variegated purple for this, and then I did a satin stitch on the big one, and I can show you that afterwards, okay? So let's get started. Let's first start off with the blanket stitch. So you can still do it, you just do a straight stitch and you stitch it right next to it, okay? So right here, we're going to start off this lovely little heart, and we're going to start at the bottom and work our way around. And then we're going to try, and when we pivot or turn, that our needle is stopping on the outside of the fabric, like on the outside, okay? And then when we come into the center, we just kind of do the best that we can to come all the way up, and then we're going to pivot, probably even lift our foot, lift our foot, lift our needle maybe, and then just come back around and connect there, okay? So blanket stitch number one. You just want to make sure you're lining everything up. And I want to go right beside my fabric. I want my straight stitch to stitch right down next to my fabric. Okay. And don't be afraid to turn your machine down. I know, I've said this. I know, I'm looking at you here. Don't be afraid to turn your machine down when doing these appliquing projects. Okay, so it's going to back, and there's right there, over a bit of fabric, and then just keep it nice and steady. Don't push it. Don't shove it through. Just kind of let it take its course with the feed dogs underneath. It's going to do its job. Okay. And of course, whether you used a lovely orange thread for this, or even just white or black or whatever it is, that is going to help make your project stand out. Okay, so now we're coming to the curve. Careful. Okay, now we're going to stopped on the outside, so we're going to lift our foot just a little bit. And then get to the point where we think maybe we want to do that again. So we're going to wait for it to come out onto the outside of the fabric, lift our foot. Okay, and again, lift our foot. And now you want to make sure you're kind of coming right down into the center. Okay, so that's good there. Now we're just going to take it and pivot just a little bit here. And we know that our needle is stopping on the outside, so we're okay there. And then just continue on, slowly turning. Oh, we'll do it the next one. Okay, here, and then there. And be patient. Be patient with yourself and your machine. I would test. I would do a little tester first to see what stitches you're liking and what settings you like for those stitches. Okay, so definitely do a little tester, zigzag, and even some ugly little fun stitches here that you could use that instead of using a blanket stitch if that's what you had on your machine. So be creative. Be creative on your applique. Oops, that was on the inside. There we go. Now we go. This is a great way to feature, you know, someone's love of fabric or a certain fabric, and then put it right in the center. Okay, now we get to the bottom. We are going to do a little back stitching just to lock those stitches in. Okay, and there we go, and cut. And there we have our, sorry, I'm trying to get it in there. Okay, and that is the blanket stitch. Okay, right there. Okay, now we will set it up to do the zigzag. So I had mine as presetting of, like, for the zigzag, it's number 8 on my machine, but I would have the numbers here. The first one would be 4.0 and the other one would be 2.1. Okay, so I'm just going to go clear 08. It's going to put it there, so I'm going to change my little number dial here to 4. And then the other one to 210. Okay, and now I'm going to use the zigzag stitch. Okay, and same principle, starting off down at the point and be able to make your way around. Okay, and then just stopping on the outside as well. Okay, so line it up. So a lot of people, depending on how you want to stitch, if you want to put the center, like where the edge of your fabric is, right in between your foot, then you know you're going to get a bit on either side, right? Most people like to just hug it right onto the fabric itself. They just want to stitch onto the fabric of what they're stitching onto, not necessarily the background fabric. So you choose what you want for you. There's no wrong way. Not that I can see. Okay, and again, being slow and steady. I know it's not usually one of the few words in my vocabulary, but yep. And then slowly turning it, and then again, when it stops on the outside, and we've got to make a little bit more of a turn. We're making sure that is happening. Okay, and again. Not as many turns because it's a much wider stitch, a much faster stitch. The one that's going to take the most time, okay, stop that right down in the point there, is going to be the satin, because it takes a lot of thread. It's going right next to each other, super duper close, covering all the edges. Okay, I should have pivoted that instead of just trying to turn it. But just practice and do a tester, and you'll be happy with the results. Okay, now I'm just going to back stitch, keep that in its place, and that is the super duper fast zigzag. That's what a lot of people do, just quick and easy, zigzag straight down. Okay, there's that right there, so you can see it. Okay, go around the outside edge. Now, like I said, decorative stitch or no, it's not decorative stitch, decorative thread or ombre or variegated would be kind of really cool. All right, now same for the next one, the satin stitch. It is the same stitch as the zigzag, it's just the settings are different. It's 4.4, and then I'm going to go all the way down to 0.35 for this, because that makes it really, really close together. Okay, so here, let's start at the bottom. Okay. Now it's going to go really close. And this, now, like I said, If you weren't stabilizing this fabric that you're putting down first, like this is, like I said, is a heat and bond, it's already stuck there, then you're gonna wanna stabilize the underside, okay? Whether some heat and heated one-sided interfacing stabilizer, or it's pinned down and you're using it as a pin, and you're just gonna cut away afterwards, okay? So you gotta be patient. Don't push. This is where one is so tempted to push because you're like, oh, it's taking forever. It's never gonna happen. It will happen. Just be patient. See, you can see it's moving. I'm not even touching it. Okay. But we just kind of really want to make sure we're covering that raw edge. Now, really depending on the fabric you choose, is going to depend on whether you're going to see fraying or not. Right? This is actually a batik that I'm using here, but it shouldn't fray at all. Right, slow and steady. Slow and steady wins the race. Okay, now again, stop on the outside. Just gonna lift the foot just a smidge, because that's gonna have to be our little moves. Just a wee bittens. Just a wee bittens at a time. Outside. There we go. Now, I could only suggest is that you make sure you have enough thread to applique all your projects, like, or whatever blocks you got going on or project you got going on beforehand. And I also suggest using the same top thread as your bottom thread. Just a little, one more, two more. It's kind of hard to see sometimes. There we go. We want to get right down into the center. Stop it with the inside and then come back up on the side here. There we go. Using a nice fresh needle too. Just a regular needle should be just fine. If you're doing thicker projects, like maybe adding jean or corduroy accents to a block or something, that I would definitely use a jean needle. When you're working with heavy fabrics, use a heavy needle. It just makes sense, right? If you're working with really light and sheer fabrics, use a much lighter needle. Same with the stabilizer. If you're using maybe organza or satins or silks or something like that, then I would definitely be using a stabilizer no matter what. And of course, the bigger the fabric, the bigger the stabilizer. Okay. Now I'm just guiding it. Try not to push it. It's so tempting to push. Don't push. Just let it do its thing. Okay, and you will eventually get there. Okay, you just have to be patient. Okay, now it's overlapped. We started up and went around. Now we've overlapped. We're just going to make sure we just seal that up with our little stitching. And there we have the satin stitch. Okay. Give it a nice close-up cam right there. Hopefully get it in there. Perfect. Okay. I was going to say it looked like it folded there, but it's actually just a part of the fabric. So it's the design of the fabric. So there we have our 3 stitches for applique, including one extra, the straight stitch, if you wanted to use that one as well. But those would be the top 3 basic ones for applique. I did think about doing that for my Get to Know My Neighborhood, the every other week project that we have going on, and you can get a chance to win one of those projects in the end. I am making 2 blocks every time. So just got to follow the rules. Simple and easy. So, but yeah, so here's the straight. So you can see that one more time there. And then with that variegated purple, we did this project on a couple of Saturday live streams ago. And what we did is we resized a pattern. And instead of making it 72 by 78, it ended up this one being half the size, ended up being about 35 by, I think it was 18. Or 35 by 33. So a super nice, wonderful wall hanging for sure. So here, I will show you what the satin stitch on that one looks like. Okay, so there you go. And that was done with the purple. And I do have some footage of me sewing this. I believe it's down this side, the best I could, so you could see it being stitched out with that beautiful purple thread.
Okay, so hopefully that answers a few questions and encourages you maybe to try a different step to your quilting. You've never appliqued before, just didn't know how or why should you? But it can really add a lot of accents to quilt projects. So, and you can even just build it out as an applique itself, like I have been doing with my Get to Know My Neighborhood. So, thank you everybody. Greatly appreciate you here at the Mama Pop Quilt Shop. Big hugs to you. Hope you have a fantastic weekend, and don't forget to check us out on Saturdays at 1 p.m. Eastern for our live streams. We're always working on something. And on Tuesdays, we have a live stream of cross stitch in the morning at 11 a.m. Eastern. So come join us there. We also have our Wednesday, Long Arm Wednesday video and our Friday video as one you are watching right now. So, but just so you know, next Friday, July 1st, which is Canada Day, also Pop and I's 27th wedding anniversary, we are going to be live streaming during the day a special project that I have designed. So hopefully you can join us. So set your calendars, be July 1st, and we will also be streaming on July 2nd, which is our normal Saturday stream. Okay, so big hugs to you everybody. Hopefully this project has inspired you. Take care, enjoy the day.